Alright, what's going on? This is war number 12. Heading into this war, we are 1-3 in our last 4. We started the season 4-2. We are now 5-5 and in need of a win to secure Masters. Otherwise, we miss Masters for the second season in a row. Previous to last season, we hadn't missed Masters in a season that we were pushing since Season 1 when we finished at the top of Platinum 1. So I've got some interesting fights here. I've got a lot of fights. I'm going to be on Path 7 in Section 2, taking that Mojo, taking Doctor Strange, and taking the Magneto boss. We'll talk about all that stuff. This is going to be my last war in For Loki, and that's hard for me to process. I'm not moving alliances or anything like that. I am just not going to be doing competitive alliance war play or competitive alliance play for at least the foreseeable future. I don't want to like fully close the door because I know how much I'm going to miss For Loki and BG3, and I'm very competitive. So who knows what's going to happen, but I do need to step away. So we'll have another video about that. We'll be retiring after this season, and I'll kind of talk through the decision-making process, and I'll explain all that stuff in a different video. But anyway, all right. We have 9 fights this war. We are taking this mcoc with both of these Section 1 fights with Apocalypse. I will be using my 6-hour boost, and I think the original thought was I might not be able to get to the boss on my on these 6-hour boosts. But you guys can kind of see the volume that I have of these boosts. I only have one more 6-hour 30% boost, and I know that I'm going to need that for the boss, or want that for the boss. I'm not really that concerned about these first few fights here, and I'm throwing on the science boost because I'm going to be using my Spiderman 2099 on Scarlet Witch, the Sigil Witch on Power Snack. We'll get to that, of course, but yeah, I'm basically trying to maximize the boost that I have so I don't have to buy more boosts, since this is ultimately my last competitive alliance war. But this fight is very easy. I understand why mcoc would be placed here. Power gainers are typically placed here. But this fight is very, very easy if you play into it. Defensive combat power rate is much higher than offensive combat power rate, so the defender's going to be gaining power a lot faster than you're going to be gaining power by punching them in the face. Now, why that is helpful on this node is because this node has, I can never remember what it's called, but it has, you only gain power when the defender gains a new bar of power. But because defensive combat power rate is higher than offensive combat power rate, you actually end up gaining that bar of power much faster than you would if it didn't have that node interaction. And that's nice because this is, of course, Strike Counter Fury. So if you get to 0 on any one of your strike counters, those passives with numbers on them underneath my health bar, you will give them a passive Fury that increases their attack rating. And definitely, those can't be removed or reversed or anything like that. So so this node, if you know how to play it, is actually very, very easy. Defenders that are hardest on this node would be defenders like Ebony Maw and Green Goblin, who reduce combat power rate, or ability power rate, excuse me. And that can actually mess with the amount of power that you get back when you should get a bar of power. And then they can build Furies, start hitting really hard, yada yada. But, all right, this node is, it's a little bit more difficult because of how easy that first node is. It still has Strike Counter, but it also has Brute Force, and then it has Power Focus 1, which means that he's going to be gaining 80%. He's going to be gaining his power 80% faster, up to a bar of power, and then after bar of power, 80% slower. So, Mole Man is not very good placement here. And when I say that, you know, I'm not really criticizing the other alliance by any means. I do end up saying that a lot, I think, but ultimately, most defenders aren't going to be good placements for any node, and most nodes aren't going to have a necessarily a good placement. It's hard to do a war map when you only have 50 defenders. You don't want to duplicate at the top tier. So you're using 50 separate defenders, and you have to kind of just put together the map the best possible way. That doesn't mean that every node has a correct defender or anything like that. In fact, probably the best case scenario is you have 5 really strong placements and everything else is just kind of slightly inconvenient. But all right, here we have Scarlet Witch or Sigil Witch on node 22. I'm not a huge fan of this placement either. Spiderman 2099 is a top counter to this node, especially with the anti-venom synergy, and he's going to be a pretty good counter for her. The reason she's placed here is because Power Snack can give her more power, of course, and you know, kind of the key to making her a dangerous defender is for her to get a lot of power. Magic is a very good option for this fight. Archangel is also a great option for this fight. I ended up assigning it to myself with Spider-Man 2099 because I knew that I was going to have to take the boss with Spider-Man 2099. We do have other counters that we like to use for Magneto bosses, specifically Lags with his Kitty Pryde, and some of these other fights too. Again, you know, I have kind of top counters that I prefer to these fights, but again, we were in a position in our battle group where we were clearing the boss with, I think, 5 people again. So we had somebody on a date, which is very cool. We want to honor real life, which is very important. This game has to be secondary, so you know, sometimes our people will be like, hey man, I'm really slammed tomorrow, or hey, I've got, you know, this thing that I'm doing with my family, or hey, I'm on a date, and we plan around that because that's ultimately our jobs, is to just lead the battle group in the best way possible for the battle group, and sometimes that means obviously giving people their real life. So anyway, little context for why I'm taking some of these fights as opposed to other people that have maybe better counters. Vega has a rank 4. Spider-Man 2099, he definitely would have been due all of these Spider-Man 2099 fights. But the reason ultimately that I didn't assign them to him is because I had him. He and I were the only 2 people with 2 specific attackers that I wanted for a specific path. And I was concerned about this fight and my next fight, which is Kingpin on node 33. That is path 7B. And I just wanted to have a rank 4 Apocalypse for these fights because he's the safest. So there is one interesting interaction here. Bishop deals burst damage whenever you purify a debuff. Now, you guys can see my Disorient debuff is like not sticking. There, I purify it, I guess. I gain immunity to it. Apparently it's called purifying. And I take a huge chunk of 11,000 burst damage because I'm facing Bishop. Very interesting. Now, I was holding my block there, you guys could clearly see. I didn't want him to throw his SP1 because I didn't want to be incinerated. I know that I gain that incinerate immunity, but if I become immune to the incinerate, I'm going to take another huge burst of direct damage for purifying it. So I'm trying to stay away from him while he has the steady release. Or is that what it's called? I can't remember. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But I was holding block, trying to prevent him from throwing his SP1. He threw it right into my block anyway. I'm able to get through the fight. Not a big deal. It went, I think, a little bit better than the worst case that I had in my head. I was a little bit worried about that fight. And then this fight, I was also pretty worried because Kingpin stuns on his SP3. This node does have Spite, and if you knock the defender down for 4 seconds after that, they gain the benefits of kinetic transference. So anytime they hit into your block, they're going to gain power. Alright, so, obviously the concern with Kingpin is you don't really want him to throw his SP2 because of the unstoppable that lasts forever, and then you can't really hit him without parrying him. You just like parry one hit. His SP1 is great, but it does have spite, so I'm trying not to trigger dexterity here. I definitely could have and maybe should have taken off dexterity just so that I could more easily bait out his SP1. Here he ends up throwing it, so we're in a decent spot. I am not going to throw a special until I get to my SP2, and I also want to make sure that I clear his power, because when I knock him down with my SP2, so I'm going to actually push him to an SP1 again and try to get him to throw it again. Once I knock him down with my SP2, he's going to get those kinetic transference benefits. And again, I don't want to push him to his SP2, and definitely don't want to push him to his SP3. That's how you lose this fight, if he gets to an SP3. Alright, and I am able to recycle the SP2s because Apocalypse is, so strong with class advantage, with the boosts, and just the SP2 burst damage is crazy. So we get through it. Alright, so I end up leaving all the rest of my fights until the end of push, because the plan was for me to take all 4 of my last fights with Spider-Man 2099. In hindsight, I actually think Apocalypse would have been smarter for this, or not in hindsight. I came to the realization, you know what, Apocalypse is smarter for this Sorcerer Supreme for a couple reasons. First of all, it's my last time using Apocalypse in competitive Alliance War, so let's do it. He's going to get through this fight, I think, a lot faster than my rank 3 Spider-Man 2099 would. And, of course, we have the power down attacker tactic, and that is absolutely perfect for this node. So as long as I'm alternating combos, I'm completely removing ability power rate, which would be her power gain is all passive. It's all ability power, so you can completely shut that off with the Withers from power down. And then also you can turn off Mystic Dispersion. Now, I can't honestly remember if it turns off kinetic transference. I, for a long time, was under the impression that it would, because kinetic transference is not natural power gain, and thus it should be considered ability power gain. And also it's not affected, passive power is not affected on polka dot power, which completely negates ability or non-ability power. I think that I just confused everybody that's watching this video way more, and I think I might have confused myself. But anyway, the point is, we're just going to alternate combos here, build up the Withers, get to our SP3, and this fight's going to be over. Alright, so let's see if I actually do. Yeah, so there we've got the Withers on there. We've got 5 Withers. Now her power is being reversed, as you guys can see. We're just going to throw the SP2. We are going to have to... She's going to throw this SP1, which is fine. Because of kinetic transference, I am just going to dex it. Don't have to worry about Mystic Dispersion because of the Withers. There I thought I landed a parry, was going to throw my heavy to refresh the debuffs, and no, and here. I do this every freaking war, I feel like, where I get him in the corner, and I'm like, hey, it's just totally natural for me to throw this heavy and chain this heavy, and I get caught every war by staying your ground, and I don't know why I keep doing that. It's just a habit at this point. I built it kind of into my instincts playing the game. If they don't have a bar of power and you're able to chain heavy, it's an easy way to get an extra, couple hits in. But in war, it's just not very safe. So, all right, here I have the final my final 3 fights in competitive Alliance War. Man, this war, after, we'll talk about that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. All right, so I am only using the Reed Petrify debuff here. I am just kidding. I am using the Reed Petrify and the Suppression debuff here, but I only use the Petrify debuff against Sigil Witch because I was not planning on using, or I didn't use Reed in any of these fights, and he started with 4 pre-fights that he could place, and I wanted to use him also for the Doctor Strange. So, yeah, so I am paying attention to the prompts. This one has hold block, which is actually very friendly to the attacker, as long as you don't hold block. Then he's not going to ever hold block for like a second and a half or whatever. I am going to slow play this, use a special attack. I don't want to throw my special attack while he has that prompt. This one, dash backwards, it's impossible. I mean, he's going to dash. One of you guys is going to dash backwards. He's going to get that one, not a big deal. But as you guys can see, all I really want to do is get up to my SP2. I'm going to refresh my debuffs by my re-debuffs by throwing the heavy. And just waiting out that indestructible. Boom, we're going to throw the SP2 again. And we just need one more of those cycles. So we're just going to bait this. Obviously, Spider-Man 99 does not gain buffs. So when you use the Dexterity Mastery, he's not gaining precision, which is great. You don't have to worry about Mystic Dispersion. You don't have to worry about being degened or anything like that. All right, same deal here. Use a special attack. I am going to wait this out. I have to wait out the indestructible regardless. There he gets another use the special attack, but honestly it doesn't matter because we're just going to end the fight. So fight went really well. Spider-Man 2099 is strong there. Again, the best possible Spider-Man 2099 is when he has his buddy Anti-Venom or his frenemy Anti-Venom with him. He starts with a Wither that lasts for 12 seconds. That is best case scenario for all of these fights. But that only applies to 5 and 6 star Anti-Venom. I don't have either, so I went with the re-debuffs. Alright, throwing on Petrify again here. And this fight is a little bit dangerous, actually, because it's much more dangerous, in my opinion, than Sorcerer Supreme. And the reason is because Sorcerer Supreme's SP2 can be outranged. Doctor Strange's SP2 can't be outranged. It has to be completely dexed. On this node, it is unblockable, and I believe it's also enhanced. So it's going to do a lot more damage on this node. And here's the other thing, and this was a mistake in hindsight. So I know that I'm going directly into the boss in the next fight. I'm going to be running full suicides because Spider-Man 2099 takes 75% reduced damage against defenders or opponents with True Strike. The boss node has True Strike. So I'm going to be using suicides for that fight, so I throw them on in this fight, and you guys are going to see why that was just a really big mistake. I'm just completely purging health. Spider-Man 2099 really does not have a lot of health. I am just throwing the heavies, trying to refresh the debuffs. He's right back up to an SP1 again, and all I'm thinking is I just don't want him to get to an SP2. I opted for the PS1 as opposed to the invulnerable boost, and there I have to full dex the SP2. I don't think that I could fully dex the SP2 if I did it 10 times. I'd probably maybe do it. I'd maybe be successful 7 times. And had I messed it up, I am very confident I would have died in that moment. So I know that it was a quick fight. It looked awesome. But very dangerous. In general, when I see that placement, I'm probably going to either send an Archangel with guidance and an invulnerability boost. Magic, of course, is very good, even though with high ground, you kind of, magic, you would need, I would suggest like half suicides with bleed, 2 out of 3 in recoil, stuff like that, just to kind of get through that fight faster. Okay, so in this fight, the key to this fight, and because you don't really have your entries with his heavy unstoppable, is just intercepting. And you guys are going to see that for whatever reason, I was just in the zone. And so I'm going to get off a ton of intercepts here. There I did, I was a little bit early on the dex there, and then I got parried trying to punish. Never try to punish this SP1 in war, it's just not worth it. And then we're just going to do some intercepts. And for the rest of this fight, I'm not going to miss another intercept, and I'm not going to get hit again. So, again, I was just kind of in the zone, and it felt amazing. And you guys can see that I'm taking reduced damage from all sources, recoil, high ground. There, I kind of, that was a little bit careless. I almost got caught there, but yeah, so we're just going to be basically getting naked intercepts to start our combos after he throws his SP1. Here we go, naked, meaning I'm not preceding it with a combo and doing a dash back. Alright, we don't really want to mess with his SP2. I mean, I would just block it because of the reduced damage that I have, but, in general, I just don't really want to mess around with his SP2. His SP1 is very easy to dex, you just don't want to punish it, so you have to get a naked intercept. directly following. But you guys can see that everything is going really well. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was an awesome feeling to kind of end the war with a big war, or in kind of my quote unquote war career with a big war. I got 9 fights. Finished what was my best season in 4 Loki in terms of fight volume and my solo rate and stuff. And Lizer, people were watching and stuff, and it kind of fucked me up, honestly. after the boss, it like hit, and yeah, I don't know. I had to like take a few minutes, you know what I mean? Not to try to sound dramatic for YouTube. That's not what's going on, but kind of fucked me up. Anyway, gonna be great doing that retirement video. I don't know how many times I'll have to record that shit, but anyway, that is it, guys. That is it for probably for forever for the Let 'em Taters Alliance War videos. And I do have some videos that I have planned. Obviously, I'm going to do the retirement video. I do still have the Season 31 rewards video. I'll probably make that like a very short clip. And then one of the last videos that I definitely want to do is my attack planning process, so that I can kind of share that information with other people if they are looking to maybe venture into attack planning, just to see how I do it. Not that I'm the best or anything like that, just to share kind of my process. But anyway, thank you guys for all the support. I really appreciate it. Leave a like and a comment. I'm not going to ask for subscribers at this point. But if you do want to catch those last few videos on the channel, then maybe, for another week or two, subscribe and you'll get notified and all that jazz. But that is it. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next video.